What's going on YouTube? So the days of Tesla being the only name in EVs are rapidly changing, with some of the biggest competitors coming out of the Volkswagen group, such as this Audi e-tron. Now this model has been around for a couple years, but Audi keeps making changes to it each year, such as a battery enhancement and the addition of this new and sleek Sportback body style. So is this a great, sexy electric crossover alternative to the gas-powered Audi Q8? Let's go ahead and find out. So whereas the regular e-tron plays it pretty conservative when it comes to the styling, the name of the game with this Sportback version is just to amp that up, make this substantially sleeker, sportier looking in overall appearance. And that definitely is the case, especially when you get a model equipped like this with the black optic package. So usually this front grille is going to be finished in a full silver, but when you choose that black optic package, that's going to black out the entire thing, which looks super sleek and super cool when you pair it with the full black exterior like this example has. Now the thing I want to point out with the black optic package is that's available on all 3 trim levels, which is new for 2022 to the premium grade. Now as we come over here to the headlights, you're going to have standard full LED headlights as you would expect from an Audi product, but you do have the Matrix LED headlights if you choose the Premium Plus or the Prestige trim levels. And of course, you've got the really cool dynamic turn signals running across the top. Now moving on to the wheels, all 3 of the trim levels will come standard with 20-inch alloys. However, of course, that's not what we have. So when you choose the Premium Plus with the black optic package, that will get you a new 21-inch alloy for 2022. And then when you go for the Prestige with black optic, that gets you these awesome looking 22-inch turbine finished alloys. I love the way these look. They stand out so much on this vehicle and just have a really sleek and awesome appearance, especially when you see these orange finished gigantic brake calipers, which are also part of that black optic package. Now talking about the mirrors, they're going to be fully loaded on all the models, so that will be heating, blind spot monitoring, power folding, and auto dimming. But let's go ahead and talk about the charge port. So that port is going to be located up here on the front driver's side. And as you can see, you just press that button, this whole piece is going to fold out of the way. And I do like how you have the orange accenting on the lettering as well. Now talking about the battery, this is going to have a 95 kilowatt hour battery pack, and as far as charging times, what you're going to be looking at is about 10 hours if you're charging at home with a 240 connection. But if you use the DC fast charging, that'll get you to 80% charge in only about 30 minutes. Now I'm going to talk about range and all those other specifications a little later in the video during the test drive.
Now the Sportback e-tron, of course, is going to look like a Sportback here at the side. So we have 193 inches in length, which is around the same size of the regular e-tron model. But of course, you're going to have that really sleek, sloped off roof design that gives it a lot more of a sporty and dynamic look than the regular e-tron, and I have to say I'm a big fan of it. Now let's talk about the rear design. This is also going to be quite a bit different than the regular e-tron, and if you're cross-shopping between something like an Audi Q5, it is of course going to have a lot more of a sporty design as well. So up top we do have a lip spoiler, and I will point out it's kind of weird. It like goes all the way up to like my chest here on the back, even though it is a Sportback. And then we have our Audi branding, and then we're going to have these really cool taillights. So these are going to be full LED as you would expect out of a luxury vehicle. These do even retain the really cool animations from the bigger brother Audi Q8. And then if we drop down to the bottom, of course this is an electric vehicle, so you're not going to have any exhaust outlets, but you do have a 4,000 pound tow rating. Now in regards to your safety systems, you will have to go a little bit up in the trim levels to get all of them, but Audi does throw in forward emergency braking and pedestrian detection, as well as auto high beam standard on every e-tron Sportback. And then if you go for at least the Premium Plus trim level, which I imagine most people probably will, that will throw in your remaining two, the lane keeping assist, as well as the adaptive cruise control with traffic jam assistant. Well guys, that wraps up what we need to talk about on the outside. If you haven't subscribed to our channel already, we would really appreciate it if you hit that button down below. Go ahead and do it. Also follow us on our other social medias, and then we'll check out the inside before we take it out in a spin.
So walking up to the e-tron Sportback, of course you do have a standard smart entry system, and we have the specific e-tron branding on the back of the fob. Just grab behind the handle to unlock the door. And then once you open it up, you will be greeted with a really nice cabin. This is not quite as like super high-tech and spaceship like what you see on some of the other electric vehicles. This is really a combination of the newest Audi design language, but with some high-tech elements sprinkled throughout. Now talking about the different interior material and color options, of course you do have quite a lot since this is an Audi after all. You're looking at standard leather. However, on this Prestige model we have the upgraded Valcona leather, and that comes in your choice of black, okapi brown, or pearl beige. As we turn over here to the door trim, it is very nicely finished. We have leather that runs all across the armrest portion as well as this area above it. It is soft touch along the top as well. We do have 4 fully automatic windows with the nice metal buttons. And then you've got your 2-person memory seating located right there. Now coming over here to these seats, these are very nice seats. You're going to have 18 ways of power adjustment, including massage, if you go for the top-end Prestige model. And then like I was already mentioning, this is the Valcona leather. So it's a very high-end leather, feels super nice, and is very comfortable to sit in. The Prestige model does also throw in the soft close doors. Now of course if you're cross-shopping this with say something like a Tesla Model X, one of the biggest advantages of this is the material quality and the overall build quality. So taking a look at that, you'll notice a soft touch plastic above the gauge cluster, and then all the rest of the upper dash will be finished in a really nice feeling leather with the double color contrast stitching detail. As we move down, we have this flat piece of open pore wood that runs all across here. It looks really nice. Piano black with the e-tron branding, a kind of a rubber or leather-like material through this center portion. And then as we move down the console, we do have real aluminum trim all through here. This part right here is actually going to be hard touch, but down here below that is all a large patch of leather trim. And of course, everything does fit together absolutely seamlessly, as you expect from an Audi product. Now to start it up, this does have a more traditional way of firing up, so you're just going to put your foot on the brake and press the button. Now of course one of the first things you're greeted with, instead of an engine noise, is just going to be the look of this beautiful virtual cockpit system. This is 12.3 inches, just like it is in other Audi products. Obviously, the gauges are going to be a little bit different. You have a % of power in this default configuration, but you do have all the same settings as you would on any other Audi product, including your full screen maps, which you can set up to be Google Earth Maps, and then it does change as well with your different drive modes. Now, in addition to that, up here, you'll see that we do have a pretty large head-up display included with the Prestige model. Now coming back here to the steering wheel, we do have the latest design Audi steering wheel. It's kind of squared off on the sides for a nice feel in the hands with the piano black accents throughout. But of course different from say like a Tesla is that you have all the controls still physically located here, so it's nice and easy to get used to. As far as the steering wheel itself, it is going to be power adjusting across every single model as well as heated. Let's go ahead and talk about interior storage, because usually being an electric vehicle does allow you more flexibility in this area, And indeed, that is the case with this e-tron. So starting out underneath of the center console itself, this part is pretty small. It's just going to be a little felt-lined area where you could stick your valuables, but the main part of the storage is going to be this section right here. So as you can see, you can stick different things right along through here. It is actually a pass-through on both sides of this. And then if you slide back this, you will reveal your 2 different cup holders inside. You also have another little area right here. Just you can stick your phone and a 12-volt outlet. And then in addition to that, I do want to point out some piece of storage that you probably wouldn't even think about. And that's going to be over here. If we open this up, this goes back an unbelievably long distance. I actually want to try and see if I can stick the entire stack of coupons in. And as you can see, I can. So you can stick your coupons right over there. Really nice and accessible for pulling those out, passing them through the drive-through window. That's definitely an A+ for coupon storage. Now, the shifter is one of the more interesting elements of this cabin because this is unlike anything we've seen in an Audi product. You basically have this big floating kind of panel here, and then this part on the end is what serves as the shifter itself. So you put your foot on the brake and press forward if you want to go into reverse. As you can see, when we go into reverse, you're going to be greeted with this 360-degree camera system on both the Premium Plus and the Prestige. It does bend with your active trajectory. You have your 360 view there. And then the e-tron also has the 3D view. So you can spin all around the vehicle in full 3D, really cool. It even has things like your turn signals when you use those. Really cool setup. Then for park, you're just going to press the P on the side of the wheel. Of course, you pull back for drive. You do have the electronic parking brake as well right behind it. Now as we move on up the dashboard, the next area we'll be greeted with are some buttons through here as well as our audio control. So with this model, we have the 16-speaker 705-watt Bang & Olufsen sound system, and we'll go ahead and give that a sample right now. Of course, as you would expect, the sound system on this is really top-notch, phenomenal sound quality that fills up this cabin well, and of course makes up for the fact that you don't really have any engine noise or anything to distract you from the sound system. Okay, so now let's take a look at this first panel. We'll go ahead and talk about both these displays as a matter of fact. This one is a 10.1 inch display. The lower one is an 8.8 inch display. The lower one is mostly going to be focused on climate control, so you just touch right there. That will launch you into your 4-zone automatic climate control, which is standard across all models. Of course, to adjust your temperature, you can just slide up and down. This does have capacitive touch, so you kind of press in and get that feedback to help it be a little bit easier to use when you're in motion. Some additional functions are going to be located up there, so that's where you would turn on your steering wheel heating, for example. And then off to the side, you'll notice we have the 3-stage heated seats. Those are going to be standard on all models. And then the 3-stage seat ventilation, that is going to be included on this Prestige model. But anyways, moving into the main MMI touch response system, this is pretty much the same as in other Audi products. One of the things you'll notice that I'm in right now is Android Auto. So you do have wireless Android Auto and wireless Apple CarPlay abilities, which are certainly nice to see. And then inside of the system itself, you're going to have these tiles right through here, kind of oriented like a tablet. Of course, you've got the standard built-in navigation system, and you can activate the Google Earth Maps for that full 3D satellite view. And then in addition to that, you will find some dedicated things, of course, being EV specific, that give you different types of things like distance to chargers and information that you might need. Now finishing up the front of the cabin, you will see an auto-dimming mirror with the built-in compass, frameless design, and then your HomeLink universal remotes are in the display. Of course, you've got full LED lighting. And then as you probably expect for a vehicle like this, we do have a standard panoramic sunroof. Very large piece of glass, and unlike some of the competition, the front portion of the panel does open up.
Now, I'm sure you're probably curious about the e-tron Sportback's rear area because this is a Sportback after all, and typically what that costs you is space in terms of the design. You know, you sacrifice having a little bit more rear space for that really cool, sleek exterior design that we just saw earlier. But with this e-tron Sportback, you are going to have the same legroom as the regular e-tron, so we're looking at 39 inches of legroom, 38 inches of headroom though, so that is a 1-inch reduction. Although, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you guys, I'm not super tall, but I mean, I have no issues in terms of legroom, and they do even have a nice cutout here, so the panoramic moonroof isn't like impeding on your space, so I really don't think any normal-sized adult is going to have a lot of space issues back here in the e-tron Sportback. Behind your seating position, for reference, I have, I would say, 6.5 inches of legroom, and my feet can easily slide up underneath the seat. Now, let's turn our attention towards the features because this is a luxury SUV after all. So in the middle we do have vents. That's going to be standard equipment. We also have our own climate controls. So as you can see, we do have 4-zone climate on this particular model, and we do have the really nice touch capacitive controls that you've seen on expensive products like the Audi Q8. In addition to that, we do also have 3-stage heated rear seats. That's going to be included on the Premium Plus trim level and above. And then further below that, we have a 12-volt outlet as well as 2 charging USB ports. They are the Type-C variety. Off to the side, we have our rear window sunshades. We also have more vents here on the B pillar. And then if we drop down the center armrest, you will find some additional space in here. It's nicely felt lined. And then you can pop this out, and that gives you cup holders inside. Now coming up to your tailgate, it is going to have a standard hands-free power one as you would expect. So just wave your foot under the bumper to open up. And then inside of this cargo area, you might also expect that this is sacrificed in terms of style in the name of design, but that is not the case for the e-tron Sportback because it is only very slightly smaller than the regular e-tron model. We're coming in at 27 cubic feet of space behind the second row seats, expands up to 54 cubic feet as a maximum. So if you're comparing it to something like an Audi Q5, that's really no reduction at all for having this electric SUV and also the Sportback design. Now the seats do fold 40-20-40 split, so that maximizes your usability, so you can have the 2 rear seats as well as fold in the middle down for something really long. And then as far as other features, we have LED lighting on the side, we have a cargo cover, and then if we lift up the cargo floor, up under here, we do have a spare tire as well as a really, really deep storage bin. Now this is an electric vehicle after all, so we do actually indeed have a frunk. So if you can't fit it in that 54 cubic feet of space back there, you can put it up here. So in order to open it, you just have to use the button inside the cabin as you would pop just any other engine, and then come up here and open it. And then as far as in here, if you open this part up, you will have a pretty good amount of space. Now Audi has not provided an exact measure for how much this is. This is a lot more than some EVs that I have seen, although I don't think it's as big as something like what you would get in a Tesla Model Y, for instance. But it is big enough to fit all of your charging cables in here, and you can also, if you didn't have your charging cables inside, you might also be able to fit maybe a small weekend bag in here. Now our passenger seat is going to be fully loaded up on this fully loaded e-tron Sportback. We have massaging, we also have all the adjustments that the driver would have, including the 4-way lumbar support. We even have 2-person memory on the passenger side. And then if we pop open the glove box, holy smokes, this is a big glove box. Wow. You know, I think it benefits from the fact that the dash is kind of driver focused, so it pushes the dashboard out further on the passenger side, and it goes back a long ways. I mean, for instance, we can really fit our coupons vertically, we can put them horizontal. It's a lot of space in here, and it is also nicely felt lined. And then up top, we have a sun visor. It has LED lighting, a mirror, and we can also detach it as well as extend it. Nice.
there we go, up to 60 miles per hour. So the e-tron is a pretty fast electric vehicle, as you would expect, really from looking at the exterior. It looks like a pretty quick vehicle, and indeed it is. So what we have on board is the battery pack, which I mentioned, 95 kilowatt hours. We have a dual motor electric system going on with all-wheel drive, and the total output is going to be 355 horsepower, 414 pound-feet of torque. That's in the normal mode. There is actually an overboost, which is going to raise that power up and make this even a little bit quicker.
Yeah, and the 0 to 60 is rated at 5.5 seconds for this model. So taking off there, I mean, this is certainly very quick. It's not like the fastest electric car that you can buy. You certainly would get more performance out of something along the lines of a Tesla Model X, if that's what you're comparing this to. But in regards to a gasoline option like the Audi Q8, which we've been talking about in this review, this is going to be just as fast, I think actually quite a bit faster.
I'm switching into the dynamic mode right now. One of the things I do want to point out is, since we have an air suspension, so that's something important to know, it does lower when we go into the dynamic mode. Of course, that is also going to give you a very soft and supple ride, as we'll see in just a little bit as we kind of cruise down the road. But I just wanted to go ahead and get into the dynamic mode before we take off here.
Yeah.
And there's 70.
Yeah. I think that definitely does feel quite a bit quicker in the dynamic mode.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And I will also point out that it does have that sound effect, so you kind of feels like you're in a spaceship, you know, with the nice sound effect that they're giving you. But, you know, like Drew was mentioning, let's go ahead and talk about the ride quality. That's a really important part about this e-tron Sportback, and something pretty unique to it. It does have that air suspension, which is, of course, going to give you a really, really, really good ride quality. You know, air suspensions are unrivaled in terms of their ride quality, and that's something you're really not going to get out of most electric vehicles at this point. And we will also get a sound level reading going 55. Looking at 55.6 decibels. So that's a really good reading. I would expect no less, because this is, you know, a full EV and also in that high-end luxury territory. So it's definitely very quiet in here.
You can turn up and down the amount of regen you like. Right now we have some kind of middle ground area where it doesn't do a whole lot of like real hard regen like a Tesla does when you let off the gas pedal, but once you get on the brake, you can also feel it assisting and pulling you back a lot harder than the amount of input you're putting in.
All right, and let's go ahead and do our air ball and slam dunk. Drew can kick us off with the slam dunk today.
So I'd say the slam dunk is definitely going to be the exterior design. You know, it has a more like conventional Audi look, but with that Sportback design, it's really quite sleek looking. These wheels, I love them. This really all comes together.
Yeah.
It's very nice, and also a lot better looking than the standard e-tron. When that first came out, this is a big improvement over that.
Yeah, absolutely. And as far as our air ball is concerned, that's going to be the price. So this tester specifically is very, very expensive. It's fully loaded out. It's loaded to the gills with equipment. But every e-tron Sportback is going to carry a pretty hefty price tag. We're starting at $69,100 for the premium model, and then for the Prestige, you're starting at $82,300. And this particular model, as equipped, is coming in at $91,355 with a few credits for missing equipment because of COVID part shortages.
Right, including the wireless phone charging pad,
Yeah.
which I didn't mention in the interior. Now with the battery, big battery low in the body, of course, you know, you do have a pretty reasonable amount of agility going around corners, but this is definitely a more luxury focused as far as, you know, luxury versus performance balance. That being said, like I said, it does feel a little bit sportier than maybe even the standard version of the Q8. It's probably a little sportier than that because you have a little bit more agility. That feels bigger than this does.
Yeah.
And speaking of the Q8, of course, at the beginning of the video, we asked, you know, is this a good electric alternative to an Audi Q8, because, you know, Mason and I were thinking, if you really look at the shape of this, the design, the sizing, and the pricing, it really lines up pretty nicely with an Audi Q8. And I would say the answer to that is yes. I mean, if you're looking for an electric vehicle, you're getting pretty much a very similar package to an Audi Q8, but you're pairing that with that full electric experience, which, you know, some of you guys I know are looking for your first electric vehicle and you're ready to make that jump. And if that's the case, then the Audi e-tron is for you.
Well guys, that wraps up our review of the 2022 Audi e-tron Sportback. If you enjoyed this video, found it helpful in your purchasing decisions, or both, please hit that subscribe button down below. I know you probably have lots of other YouTubers you subscribe to and you're wondering why you need to subscribe to us. Well, we have tons of automotive content, so please go ahead and do that. I know you won't regret it. And we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.